Hi friends, what's up? It's Jaime here. Okay, first things first, the reason why I'm missing some things from my wall over here is because move out day is fast approaching, and so I'm starting to kind of pack up all my shit in anticipation of that. But anyway, for today's episode of my writing advice from Tumblr series, I'm going to be talking to you guys about some bad writing advice that I've encountered from the post that I'm referencing for this video, and why, really just like why these writing tips are not the most helpful. But yeah, so without further ado, let's get into the video. As always, here's the post that I am referencing for this video, and I will have the Instagram account, because again, these are technically Tumblr posts that I found from Instagram. The Instagram account where I originally saw the post, like in the description and all that good stuff. And if you're ever wondering to yourself, hey Jaime, I went and checked out the original post and there's some stuff on there that you didn't talk about in your video. Why is that? The reason for that is, one, I'm trying to be conscious of like how long these videos are, and two, I really want to encourage you guys to go check out the original Tumblr posts if you are so inclined to do so. Okay, so now that all that's out of the way, this first bad writing take is always show, don't tell. And now if you watched my last writing advice from Tumblr video, that whole like episode was dedicated to show, don't tell, and why you shouldn't like treat it as gospel, so I won't harp on it for too long. But I will say that, you know, show, don't tell is like usually the first piece of writing advice that writers receive for a reason, because it is a good guideline. I mean, I use it all the time. However, but I genuinely believe that a huge part of becoming a better and more experienced writer is knowing when show, don't tell is effective and when it isn't. Although it's generally important to show more than you tell in your writing, it's not as if telling is forbidden, so just keep that in mind. Okay, the second bad writing take is, if it's not relevant, cut it. And the reason why I'm like so opposed to this specific writing take is because it like directly goes against what I feel is like some of the best writing advice I've ever been given. And that writing advice would be save everything. And by save everything, we don't mean like don't make any cuts. That's not what we're talking about. By save everything, it's if you're going to cut something considerable from your script, your novel, whatever, like make sure that you save it somewhere that you can access it for later. Just because you may not like what you've written in the moment that you have written it, it doesn't mean that it's totally unsalvageable or can't be used in a later piece. And even if you don't end up using it, at least you know that it is somewhere that can be accessed at any point in time, rather than being like, oh, I'm writing this one thing, you know what really would have been good for that thing that I wrote that other time but didn't really like at that moment, and it was like, oh, I can't, I deleted it and it's gone forever and I can never get it back. Like, you know, it's much better to at least still have it, even if you never end up using it ever again. There's also the matter of when we add little details in our writing that may not like dramatically have any kind of impact on like the story as a whole, but it doesn't mean that you need to cut it just because it's not like so like immediately relevant to the story or the plot or whatever. Personally, I believe that one of the most fun parts about world building and character building is adding in those little seemingly insignificant details that may not really contribute to the story or plot at large, but they're just in there because they add a little bit more character, and I don't really see why those things need to get cut, just again because they're not like super relevant to the overall story. Obviously there is such a thing as adding too many irrelevant details, but I feel like that kind of goes without saying, and that's something that I feel like most writers have a fair grasp on, that it really isn't that big of an issue. Okay, and so the last bad writing take I'm gonna be covering in this video is one that just like, when I see it happen in media, it just makes me sad. It's, if you're hitting a wall in your story, kill someone off. And I feel like there is no greater sign of bad writing than when a character is killed off of a TV show or something, and you can just tell that it's because the writers like did not know what to do with them. Like, so they just killed them. I can think of several instances where it's just so clear that a character was killed off because the writer or writers like just did not know how to properly wrap up their character arc or like whatever. And it's so disheartening when it happens, especially if it happens to a character that you were really like invested in. Because the thing about killing off a character is that that's gonna permanently affect your story, unless you're fucking Riverdale, where people die and come back to life, or die and come back to life all the fucking time. Also, just so that we're all on the same page, I don't actually watch Riverdale. I just watch Alex Meyer's like video commentaries on it, which I highly recommend over watching the actual show, because that show is something else. Anyway, generally speaking, killing a character is permanent and will dramatically affect your story, so you really shouldn't be killing off major characters willy-nilly, like just for shits and giggles. Because otherwise it can be very frustrating for your audience, whether it's your viewers or your readers or whatever, if you don't address the character's death in a way that makes sense or contributes something to the story. If it just happens because you just felt like it and got lazy, the people will know. You know how I just said that sometimes you can leave like little details in your scenes even if they aren't like super relevant to like the overall story? Character deaths are not one of those things that you can just write and then have that be like canon and then pretend that you didn't just write that. In conclusion, if you are going to kill off a character, my advice would be create conditions where the only outcome in that scene for that character is death. Like, don't pull some bullshit where you have like this really powerful character who gets like beat by something that they normally would have been able to deal with, but because you needed to kill them off, all of a sudden it's like, oh, I was like really strong like 5 minutes ago. Oh no, I'm dead. Like, don't do that. And also, do not just kill off a character because you don't know how to wrap up their character arc. If you're past the point where it's too late to like just omit the character from the story completely, I would suggest that then at the very least, maybe you should study other character arcs in media that resemble the one that you are struggling with. Okay, so those are all the bad writing takes I have for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you're interested in viewing the full Tumblr post, I will have it in the description down below. And yeah, thank you guys again so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye guys.